It's time to break the cycle. Stop overthinking and start moving.
Let's get into it today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast. Welcome to Wandering But Not Lost, your online source for finding balance so that you can align, connect, and prosper. And now your hosts, Jen O'Brien and Matt Emerson. Well, welcome back to the Wandering But Not Lost podcast. Today we're tackling something that holds so many of us back, overthinking. You know that feeling, the constant analysis, the self-doubt, the endless loop of what ifs, should I? It's time to break that cycle and move forward with clarity and confidence. In this episode, we unpack why we overthink, how it stops us from taking action, and more importantly, how to overcome it. You can get all the show notes for today's episode over at wbnopodcast.com. This is episode 333. And before we jump in, I have an ask. If you want more information about what we do here at WBNL or want to be up to date on all the tips and all the videos that we do, join our community of wanderers. You can go over to you go over to wanderingbutoutlost.com, and there's a little button right there in the very top of the website that says join our community of wanderers. And you can just fill out that form and you will get on our mailing list. We don't flood you with 1,000 emails a week. It's 1 or 2 emails, and they always, what we think anyway, are something that are going to keep you inspired and keep you going. As a matter of fact, the name of our email that goes out every Friday is Inspiration Inbox, and we hope they're actually doing that. So go over to wanderingbutoutlost.com and check that out today. Everything turned off there? Yeah, everything's turned off. All right, so now let's get into it. So let's start with why we get stuck in this loop. Overthinking often disguises itself as being prepared or I'm making a smart decision. But in reality, it's inaction in disguise. The more we analyze, the more our brains create scenarios that keep us from actually moving forward. A common way that we all have probably, and you've probably heard of this, of thinking about this, is overthinking equals analysis paralysis.
Oh, yeah.
That is ever so true. So here's an example of that. If you want to start a new habit, like let's say a morning walk. Jen and I have been talking about morning walks and promoting morning walks for a long old time. So if you want to start that, instead of just doing it, which would be the easy way to write, and it wouldn't get you blocked, you start thinking, I wonder what the best time to do my walk is going to be, or do I need to get a new pair of shoes, or should I walk or should I jog? And the next thing you know, you've talked yourself out of walking altogether. Mm-hmm. That is a scenario that I think that in many ways we've all experienced, right? So if you want to break that habit, just give yourself a decision deadline. If something's taking longer than just a few minutes to decide on, and you could even set a timer or something, commit to a choice when it goes off if you set that timer. There's no more spiraling if you're just waiting. You can think about making the next step. Here's the thing that you have to get really into your head, and this is the habit you have to do. Either you do it or you're not going to do it. I mean, you can't circle back around someday, but chances are you might not, right? So here's something else. Think of a time, this might help you, that hesitating or overthinking something has actually cost you an opportunity. Like, for example, maybe you've hesitated too long on a job offer, or you've delayed reaching out to somebody. That's a huge one. Like, how many times have you I need to get back to them or that, or you might have had a conflict or something, I'll wait for them to contact me. Well, maybe you need to go in that, steps up. So what did you learn from that? So go through a little thought process in your head there. So Jan, have you ever caught yourself overanalyzing something that really, here's the point, that didn't really even matter in the long run?
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is something I used to do a lot of, but I really actually discovered through realizing when I was overthinking. It was usually about confronting somebody or talking to somebody because I heard something and I thought it was, I stewed on it for weeks or months. And then when I've had this happen a couple times earlier in my life, but now I'm so clear because when I did allow myself to go weeks without dealing with it, when I finally dealt with it, it was nothing. It's like I did the overanalyze and paralyze. I didn't do anything, made me feel worse. And the bottom line is when I actually dealt with it, it was like, are you kidding me? I should have done that. So I learned that lesson a while ago. And so now I'm all good with just talking to somebody if I feel out of sorts and just say, hey, can we just discuss this, or can we talk about this, and not make it about them, make it about you. And then it's, yeah, anyway, so yes.
Yeah.
That's a time waster.
I think that's the perfect example of that. And I think that's something that it is a time waster. And you do always feel like, why didn't I just do that before?
Exactly.
Or it sometimes has evolved or devolved in something much, much worse because you didn't confront it earlier. So
exactly.
That's the perfect one.
Yeah, some people call it carefrontation, that word carefrontation.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Overused, but it's not. People are afraid of getting their feelings hurt or hurting the other person, and then you just, that's all getting in your head too. Yep, where you're just honest and come from the heart, usually you can work things out. That's what I've learned anyway.
I think those are brilliant words. So I didn't know this stat, and it's, when you really think about it, it probably makes total sense. We make up to 1,000 decisions a day.
Wow.
A day. And if you think about it and really break that down, that is true, because almost every word that comes out of your mouth is a decision, right? And Lord knows most of us, or at least I do, say 35,000 words. So the more choices we have, the more our brains slow down. It's called decision fatigue. And that's why overthinking leaves us feeling exhausted before we even have a chance to act. So you ever stare at a restaurant menu for way too long, debating on what to order?
Yes.
That is decision fatigue in action. So I always like to use the Cheesecake Factory example, because Cheesecake Factory has the longest menu in the world. It's like War and Peace is how long
too many.
It is, right? It just goes on forever and ever. And that's even before you get to the cheesecake, right? Because you're like pondering, oh, this all sounds so great. And then they put the damn calories on there. So you're like, oh, I don't want to have 10,000 calories in my meal today for lunch. So then you're like going back and forth. And, oh, I'll get the Skinnylicious menu, which is a whole nother menu that's got a bunch of stuff on it. Anyway, that's a great analogy if you were a Cheesecake Factory eater. But apply that to bigger decisions in your life, like job moves, creative projects, personal growth. It's no wonder why we feel stuck, right? Because there's just so much going on in your head. So if you want to break that cycle, you need to actively reduce unnecessary choices. Simplify your morning routine. Create a preset meal plan. That really helps a lot when you don't walk into the kitchen like, oh, what am I going to have for dinner tonight, right? If you think ahead and kind of plan things out, it makes it a lot easier. I know you do that, Jana Bryan. Mm-hmm. It's a great thing. Or, limit your wardrobe to a few options. That's an idea. I'm telling you, the fewer choices your brain has to process, the more energy you'll have for each action. So you're taking all that quandary away and focusing that energy on what you actually need to be doing. And you know what? It's not the only reason. There's some branding reasons to this too. But one of the reasons why Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day is because that just is one less thing he had to think about. Mm-hmm. So, that same look. There are a lot of people that do that. If you watch people on television, they will wear the same consistent clothing. And it just, it's a branding thing for one thing. But another, it's a whole other thing is just not having to have a decision about that. So if you find yourself stuck, you could even flip a coin. Now, I know that sounds super silly, and there's probably other ways you can do that. And it's not because the coin decides, but it's because your reaction to the result will tell you what you really want. So I'm telling you, let's go back to the Cheesecake Factory thing. If you're sitting at looking at that menu, and there's 3 or 4, a couple things on, let's say 2, because when you're flipping a coin, it has to be one or the other, right? And you choose those things and you flip it, and that coin lands down, you're like, oh, I didn't really want the Kung Pao chicken. Well, you know what? Check, you don't want that one, just pick the other one. I'm telling you, I have such a hard time at the Cheesecake Factory that I don't even look at the menu. I order the same thing every single time I go. So that's another option, right? Because it can be overwhelming. So, Jana Bryan, what's one area of your life that you've simplified decisions to avoid overthinking? Can you think of one?
Well, you mentioned one of them, and that is helping me with using my AI to help with meal prep and getting my shopping list and staying on track with that. And honestly, my workout plan and what I'm doing. So it's instead of like just sitting there going, should I get up? Should I go do this? Or, what should I cook today? That's helped a lot for sure.
Yeah, those are good. So overthinking is often driven by fear, and fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. But fear is just a prediction. It's just a prediction. It's not reality. So always remember that when you're afraid of something, it hasn't happened yet. You haven't experienced it. That's just what you're putting on it. You're overlaying there. So let's talk about the 10-10-10 rule. Will this matter in 10 minutes, 10 months, or 10 years? Right?
Mm.
So if you have a business idea but never start because you think, what if it fails? Instead, flip the script on that. What if it works? What if it changes my life? Right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of get in your own head to kind of unwire some things. So you could adopt, we just talked about the 10 rule. Let's adopt the 5-second rule. I like this one. This is for Mel Robbins. She's known for her TED Talks, like how to stop screwing yourself over. And she's also developed the 5-second rule. She developed that after watching a NASA rocket launch. The rule is based on the idea that people only have a few seconds to act on an idea. And I think the NASA analogy is the perfect thing, right? There they go, right? If something goes wrong, you don't have time to wonder what we should do here, right? Because, well, we've seen the outcome of that, unfortunately, in our lives. So the moment you catch yourself overthinking, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then take action. It's super simple mental trick that can bypass hesitation. So give that a try the next time you get stuck. So what's one decision that you've made out there that you've been sitting on for too long? And then try the 5-second rule and start it right now, and then take action today. And if you work on that, you've done that, or you have something you want to share, please drop it in the notes. So now I'm going to ask you, Janet Bryan. So when you hear better done than perfect, because I like that expression, right? What does that resonate with you?
I totally agree with that. I feel like I used to be such a perfectionist, but I now know that I trust that what I do is good, and getting it done. And who's making me think of this? Chance, our broker friend, Chance helped me with something about realizing that one time and talking to him about just getting it done is getting it out there is you're done. You may feel it's 80%, best, but it's getting it out there, and you're not serving any purpose if you keep on trying to think it's got to be better and better and better. So I'm down with that. Yeah. I want to say something about Mel. You mentioned Mel Robinson.
Yeah.
My sister mentioned that she's reading her new book. It's called Let Them, which is just, you can imagine what that's all about. Let people, it's their stuff. Don't take on their stuff, but let them to really, so go check that one out too. All her stuff's really good.
That's cool. I'll make sure that I put that in the show notes. I will have to check that out. I've watched some of her stuff, and I have done some reading on that, but I need to dive back more, because I really think that I connect with what her messages are, as so many people do, obviously.
It's really good stuff.
Yeah. So thinking doesn't break over thinking, right? Does that make sense? Let's say that again. Thinking doesn't break over thinking. Movement does. So the best way to stop overthinking, start moving. Literally start moving. And we talked about this last week when we talked about micro-movements, and now that kind of re-energizes you. But action interrupts the cycle of overthinking every single time. So if you get stuck in a quandary, just get the hell up, right? So if you're debating on whether to start working out, don't plan a whole routine. Just put your shoes on and walk outside. You don't have to have this elaborate thing that you need to go out and do. Just do it. For crying out loud. There isn't a better catchphrase that ever has been our tagline that's ever been created than just do it, because tiny steps often lead to the next and the next and the next. And then suddenly you're in motion, one foot in front of the other. So got a lot of rules in this episode. So now let's talk about the 2-minute rule. 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, and a lot of things you do on a daily basis takes less than 2 minutes, do it. Just put it into action immediately, right? You don't have to wait on that. And if you get it done, then it's off your list. So not only are you getting something taken care of, but you're making yourself feel like you accomplished things along the way, right? There's nothing better than a checklist, in my opinion. And I know Jan agrees with this too. Having your daily checklist of things to do, it not only keeps you focused on track, but also makes you like, woo, I'm having a great day checking off the checklist. So
I like checking off the boxes.
It's like, I'm on fire. It's awesome. So, let's just talk about the micro movements for just a second. We went, and if you didn't listen to our episode last week, go check that out. Or actually, just this last Sunday, we posted a kind of a longer form video on micro movements, and we have 5 examples of micro movements in there that I actually physically show you how to do. So go check out that video too over on our YouTube page at Mindful Wandering on YouTube. So to make sure you check that out. But let's just do an example. And, Jan and I were last week, we were kind of doing the shoulder shrug, kind of got us, left. But there we go. I think the best thing to do a little chair dance. Gonna do the chair dance. Anyway, it keeps you moving. You know what it does? It just breaks the mental inertia. That's the whole purpose of the whole thing. It gets you going in a different direction. All right, Jan. Have you ever taken a small action that snapped you out of overthinking? And what would that have been? It's
always getting outside and just being in the sun and nature and taking a walk, and it just changes everything. So
it is.
Yep. It's a pattern interrupt, as you're mentioning.
Yeah, and that's really what it's all about, right? It's about taking that next step. So let's put this practice into action right now. So first of all, set a decision deadline. Make that a part of your consciousness when you're getting into the situation. Don't overthink your next move, just choose. And you know what? If you choose the wrong thing, you're just gonna be on with it better. It's like you learn from failure. There's nothing wrong with failing, right? Failing is how you learn. And even, I think failure is such a harsh word anyway. We just have such a negative connotation about that. But don't overthink it. Just choose. Just freaking choose, people. Simplify your choices. Reduce mental clutter in your daily life the best you possibly can. That's a hard one to do because I think that's where a lot of us do get stuck in the clutter, literally the clutter. But try to reduce that all you can. Use the 5-second rule, count down and take action before doubt creeps into your decision-making process. Try the 2-minute rule. I really like the 2-minute rule because there are so many little things you're like, I'll do that later. You don't have to do that later. Do it right now because it's going to get it off your list. And then please move your body. Take a walk, stretch, a small action, just get in motion. Do those micro movements. It's so important. And do a lot of chair dancing. So we have some exciting news, and Jan and I have been working on this for a little bit now. If you're ready to take this even a little bit further, we're going to be launching our 4-week micro movement challenge very, very soon. And it's designed to help you build momentum through small, intentional actions, because micro movements create macro change. So stay tuned for that. And what it's going to be is a download that is going to include 4 weeks of micro movements. It's going to tell you why you're doing it. It's going to tell you how to do it. And there's going to be an associated video that actually walks you through how to do each step. So it's going to be a valuable tool. It's taken us a little time to put that together, but we'll get that together for you. And you're going to be able to find that over at wanderingbutnotlost.com. And you know what? Here's the thing. Why don't you just go over there right now, like I said, and join our community of wanderers, because you're going to hear more about when that's going to drop. And it's going to be sometime, within the next month. So we're going to work on that. So, like I had just said a minute ago, if you want more micro movements, we have a 10-minute video that just dropped last Sunday. And you can find that over on our Wandering But Not Lost YouTube channel. And you can find that at Mindful Wandering. So don't miss that. Jan O'Brien, anything else you want to throw in on this?
No, I love it. It's so easy to integrate small little actions. We've been really focusing a lot on this idea of, consistent small actions in every areas of your life compound and, will ultimately make big change in your life. Everybody sometimes thinks you have to do this massive change, and you don't, right?
No, you really don't.
It's not overwhelming. No more overthinking. Just get out there and do it, right? Get up and get out.
All right, exactly. All right, well, everyone, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Wandering But Not Lost podcast. And if your overthinking has been holding you back, remember, action is the antidote. Small steps lead to big momentum. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please hit subscribe, leave a review. Wouldn't that be nice? And share it with someone who needs to hear this. I think that's really key. You know what? If you got someone that's stuck, give them the link to the podcast and let them listen to this, because they might really need it. It might change their life. And don't forget, our 4-week micro movement challenge is coming soon. If you're ready to get out of your head and get into action, head over to wanderingbutnotlost.com and sign up to join our community. Like I've said too many times already in this episode, but you know what? Sometimes repetitive. repetitive words help.
Join the movement. Let's go, people.
That's right. So until next time, people, keep moving forward.